Good morning and welcome to this morning's reflection. I'm sure that you know the story of Lazarus. You know that Lazarus lived in Bethany with his two sisters, Mary and Martha. And Lazarus became ill, and the sisters sent Jesus a message to tell him that Lazarus was ill. And when Jesus got that message, he didn't go at once, but he waited a full 2 days before traveling to Bethany. On arriving, and we read now from the book of John, on arriving, Jesus found that Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany is only about 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to sympathize with them over their brother. And when Martha heard that Jesus had come, she went to meet him. Mary remained sitting in the house. Martha said to Jesus, "If you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now, whatever you ask, God will grant." "Your brother," said Jesus to her, "will rise again." Martha said, "I know that he will rise again at the resurrection on the last day." And Jesus said, "I am the resurrection. If anyone believes in me, even though he dies, he will live. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die." "Do you believe this?" "Yes, Lord," she said, "I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, the one who has come into the world." And when she had said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in a low voice, "The Master is here. He wants to see you." Hearing this, Mary got up quickly and went to him. Jesus had not come into the village. He was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were in the house sympathizing with Mary saw her get up so quickly and go out, they followed her, thinking that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Mary went to Jesus, and as soon as she saw him, she threw herself at his feet, saying, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." At the sight of her tears and those of the Jews who followed her, Jesus said in great distress, with a great sigh that came straight from his heart, Where have you put him?" They said, Lord, come and see." And Jesus wept. And the Jews said, "See how much he loved him." But there were some who remarked, "He opened the eyes of the blind. Could he not have prevented this man's death?" Still sighing, Jesus reached the tomb. It was a cave with a stone to close the opening, and Jesus said, "Take the stone away." And Martha said to him, "Lord, by now he will smell, for this is the 4th day." And Jesus replied, "Have I not told you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" And so they took away the stone. Then Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you for hearing my prayer. I knew indeed that you always hear me, but I speak for the sake of all those who stand around me, so that they may believe it was you who sent me." And when he had said this, he cried in a loud voice, "Lazarus, here, come out." The dead man came out, his feet and hands bound with the bands of stuff and cloth around his face. And Jesus said to them, "Unbind him, let him Let him go free. In Lazarus, we see our own story. Like Lazarus, we sleep, entombed in lethargy, entombed in loneliness, self-centeredness, withdrawal, and unbelief. And all these serve as reminders to us of this winter season of meaninglessness. We allow inertia to imprison us rather than trusting ourselves to the risks and joys of life. We choose the deceptive comfort of sleep and so participate in our own death. Perhaps we don't want to remember who we are, because then we would have a duty to live as God would have us live, generously and with love, with acceptance and with joy. Jesus is our link to life. Just as he calls Lazarus, so he calls us. He says, "Come out, come out." We hear that voice. We hear that voice if we are listening carefully to God. It reaches down into the place of our entombment. Jesus calls us into eternal life. To wake up from our sleep is to be plunged into a real and full awareness of life, into all the paradoxes of suffering and hope. It allows us no escape from the harsh reality of the actual world in which we live. It is into this world of rejection and unbelief that Jesus comes. In the giving of life to Lazarus, Jesus is setting the stage for his own death, resurrection, and glorification. In Jesus, the future is made present. The end is now. The awakening of Lazarus is the promise and joy of new life for us. And so let's take a moment to be still. And we relax into God's presence. And we ask for the grace to know and to love Jesus more intimately, so that we may follow him in faith and with courage. Take a moment to imagine yourself like Lazarus, entombed. Allow yourself to experience the darkness, the damp, the chill, the aloneness, the confinement. Become aware of the walls that surround you. The damp walls. Now prayerfully consider what it is in you that has given shape to the stones that have formed your prison. Ask yourself if the stones are those of apathy, self-centeredness, fear, distrust, self-doubt, culpable ignorance, unhealed memories, what are those stones that surround you? Particularize your tomb by writing on each of the stones the name which gives it form. So writing on the walls those things that imprison you. Focus your attention on the large entrance stone which blocks your way to freedom. And in your aloneness, listen expectantly for the voice of Jesus calling you to come out. Hear him address you by name and saying to you, "Come out." Now use these words as a mantra, hearing them over and over, resounding in your heart. And allow these words of Jesus to penetrate that large stone and to call you forth into freedom of life with him. Allow him to unbind and free you. And I'll leave you to talk to Jesus about your freedom and what it means for you and for him.